Now the strings on the instrument are tuned as G, the bottom string, D, the next one up, A, which is the second thinnest string, and then E, which is the thinnest string at the top. To help us tune the instrument, we can use a violin tuner, which will be supplied with your violin. This is the violin tuner. There's a simple button on the front of the tuner to turn the tuner on, and what we can do is to clip the violin tuner to the scroll of the violin. It's an amazing piece of technology because it will actually detect which note we're playing. So if we can see the tuner now, you can see that that's showing it's a D, but I'm plucking the A string, so it needs to be higher. As I'm putting the string up, I'm slightly pushing the peg in order to make sure that it holds its place. Now I always tune the A string first, and if you look, you can see that it's showing A. Now we can get it more accurately to an A, and it will change from that white colour to a green colour when it's perfectly in tune. But for now, I just want to bring the strings up to the right tension. So let's look at the other strings. We'll do the D string next. So that's saying D now. And just push, hold the violin there, and just use a little bit of inward pressure on the string to make sure that it holds its position. Then the G. So we're nearly there now. Now remember what I said before, you can see that the bridge has crept slightly forward. So what I'm going to do is just hold the violin against me, put my thumb either side in the centre, and just push it slightly back. The reason you use the thumb both sides is that my right hand thumb is stopping the bridge being pushed so far back it falls over. So we can see it's nice and straight now. The feet are fitting flush on the front at the front and back of the bridge, so we're ready to fine tune. I've pulled it up and it's come up to A. Now I can use the little screw at the end here just to make it a little bit sharper, and you can see that the screen has turned to green, so we're now properly in tune. So I'm going to do the same with the other three strings now. Never try and over-tighten a string. If you over-tighten a string, it's in danger of breaking, which you don't want to have happen. There we go. Check the bridge again, and we're pretty much in tune and ready to go with the violin. So let's now turn our attention to the bow. Now, in the same way as I did with the violin, I just want to go through some of the parts of the bow. The wooden part here is what we call the stick, and you'll notice on the bow the curvature of the bow. Now that curve is actually put in by heat. The bow starts off straight, and it's a very important part of the bow because it's what gives it its spring and makes it work properly. We have the tip of the bow, we have what we call the heel of the bow, and at the heel of the bow it consists of the frog, this black part here, and then the screw, this part here, which actually turns, and I'll explain a little bit about that in a moment. And then the bit that makes the noise is the hair that sits under the stick. Now, to get the best out of the bow, we need to actually put some additional tension into the bow. And we achieve this by holding the bow here and turning clockwise the screw. And if you look at the bow itself here, as I turn the screw, you can see that the distance between the hair and the stick increases. Now, I'm doing that a little bit more than I'd want to play with. I would reduce it, so you've probably got about 4 or 5 millimeters distance between the stick and the hair. If there's too little tension, when you come to put the bow onto the instrument, the wood will actually hit the string, so you need to put a little bit more tension in. If the bow itself looks as though it's starting to straighten, or that there's very little difference in gap between the frog and the hair, or the hair and the stick at the frog point and the middle of the bow, then there's too much tension, so you just need to reduce it. So there should be a much bigger gap here than there should be in the middle. Right, I think that's just about right for me, so let's put it on the violin and see what happens. Absolutely nothing. Now the reason for that is that a bow only works if it's got rosin on it. Now you'll find the rosin at the top pocket of your violin case. It's quite a magic material. Put it on the bow and the bow works. Don't put it on the bow and the bow doesn't work. When you first put rosin on, you have to actually apply quite a lot. And you do it by just rubbing the rosin up and down on the hair. And you'll need to do this for probably about a minute initially. And the reason for this is that once there is rosin on the bow, it's a little bit sticky. So it tends to pull additional rosin from the pat of rosin and make it easier to get it rosined. If you haven't got enough rosin on the bow, you'll find you don't get as good a sound out of the instrument as you would if it's actually fully rosined. Now I can feel that that's actually going in quite well. So I think we're almost to the point now where I could give it a go, and now I should actually get a proper sound out of the violin. So let's see. Totally different. So we're there. So we've got a violin that's in tune. We've got a bow that's actually ready to go with rosin on it. But I want to talk now about when you've stopped playing. It's vital when you've finished playing your violin, or viola or cello, that you take the tension back out of the bow, simply by screwing it anti-clockwise. And you can see now that the hair on the bow is quite loose. Now the reason for doing this is that if we leave it under tension, that nice curvature in the stick will eventually straighten. And if it straightens, the violin bow will not work properly anymore. So please always remember to do it. If you forget once in a while, it's not the end of the world, but really it is terribly important to remember to do it when putting your instrument away.